she had to wait. She had to wait until 4 in the afternoon when school was over. So she left school so she could be with Baba. When Baba came to Manzil-e-Mim, he would visit the family in Bombay and told them to come to Manzil-e-Mim every day. Baba, in August of 1923, introduced Korshed to Meher, and they became close friends. Korshed felt like she was meeting an old friend. Meher and her mother then came to stay in Ahmednagar. Korshed came as well. And that was the time in October of 1924 that Baba let them have their first short stay at Meherabad. He told them to bring their bedding rolls. It was a dream come true. And it was also Meher, her mother, and her mother, Daulat Mai. They didn't bring pillows because they thought that would be quite spiritual. So Baba had Padre give them pillows and told them to always use pillows. In Baba's first long stay at Meherabad was January 1925 through November 1926. She sewed Baba's sadras. Korshed patched his kamli coat. She cooked for the school children and the workers. Daily, she made 500 chapatis, and Jamshed's wife made another 500 chapatis. So they were busy all the time. Then in 1928, Baba moved the women to Toka. There were 30 women. They lived pretty naturally. And they all wanted to comb Baba's hair. So they had a lottery. They put the names on a paper, and she was the one who was to choose the name from the basket. So what she did was she folded her paper in such a way that she knew to pick hers. But then she heard grumblings from the other women, and she thought they should also have a chance. At Toka, she would play the harmonium and sing. Baba sent the message, "I am listening to your singing and I am happy." She was so happy to receive this from Baba. She was very close with both parents, Sunamasi and her father, Kaikushru. He, in 1929, was kidnapped by his own family members and forced to sign away all his wealth to them. They kept him captive for another full year because if he made any changes to the will, it wouldn't be binding. This weakened him physically, emotionally, and spiritually. He died quite young when she was 20 years old, which was very difficult for her and very devastating. In 1931, Baba went to the West for the first time. Before leaving, Baba took a bath and removed his sacred Kushti thread. He never wore that thread again, but he gave that thread to Korshed. And Korshed did something that she did throughout the years. She gave that to a Baba lover who asked for it, and she gave many things to many Baba people. Baba returned from the West in 1932. Korshed, Meher, and Mani performed the play Layla and Majnu. It was the first time that Baba, and only time that Baba had them show it to the men mandali as well. Whenever Baba would go to the West, they would make special gifts and items, Baba-related items for him. In April 1933, the Westerners who were to live there for quite some time, but only stayed a few months, arrived. Baba hid himself and wanted to play hide and seek with them. So he had Korshed tell them in English to find him. She knew very little English. So she kept saying, found Baba, and they all laughed. Delia found Baba and had the first embrace. In November of that year, 1933, she went back to live in Upper Meherabad in the East Room with Meher and others. Her job was to look in on Meher throughout the night. They lived a very secluded life, but were very busy with their work. She was amongst the women in 1937 who went by ship to France. Meher, Mani, Khorshed, Nadja, Suna, Valu, with the Westerners, traveled to France. The Eastern women were very secluded aboard the ship and very seasick. On the way back, Baba arranged for a newer ship so they weren't as seasick. She accompanied Baba on the Blue Bus tours. Franny wasn't well, Meru's mother, so Baba asked Korshed to care for Jangu, her youngest. While she was on all of the Blue Bus tours, she couldn't enjoy the sightseeing because she also had to carry a metal briefcase carrying important documents, even when she slept. Early in 1949, one of the gardeners at Meherzad's wife died in childbirth. Baba asked her to look after that child. They named him Gorak. He was a preemie and slept in a little shoebox. Baba said he was a great soul and asked Korshed to take really good care of him. August 16th, 1949 was a very, very difficult day for Korshed. It was the day that Meher Baba had all the women in the East Room to talk about who would be the 4 women going on the new life with him. She was to go with Kitty, Rano, and Nadja and stay at Meherji's house. And never see him again. This was very devastating for her and very, very difficult. Finally, she got to see Baba. She and her mother, Suna Masi, also was at Meherji's home. On May 1951, Baba allowed them to see him at Meherji's house, and they begged to have their own place to live. Nariman found a flat for them. It was one room. They lived there for 11 years. Baba and the others would come to visit them. In April 1952, Baba stayed in Bombay before his flight to the US. He told Korshed, read the Times of India daily. One day, and she did this was his order. One day she received the Times of India and read about Baba's accident in Prague, Oklahoma. And when she got that, she rushed to tell Arnavas. She even sent a cable to Dr. Burleson. Korshed was at the plane when they returned. In 1955, Korshed had a tumor and was to have abdominal surgery. Meher Baba said to tell Korshed, I am with you 24 hours a day. The Baba lovers from Bombay came and sat in her room. Carmen Masi came. She said if Baba said he would be there 24 hours a day, she wanted to be in his presence. After the second accident, Baba would spend 3 months in Pune at Guru Prasad. Korshed was invited for all 3 months. She would wash Baba's clothes, cook khichdi for him in the evenings. At the East-West gathering, prior to its beginning, Baba said, go and buy 5 beautiful saris for Meher. And she did that. And after the deluge of rain came at the East-West gathering, those 5 saris came in very handy to give to the Western women. In 1967, it was difficult to find someone to care for her mother, Sunamasi, when she would go for the 3 weeks. They found a woman who was about to give birth and then had a baby girl named Meher Ratna. This was the 3rd child that Baba asked her to care for. The baby stayed with them for 2.5 years. And Baba said that Meher Ratna had a very close connection with Baba in a previous life. In 1968, she and Nadja were to keep silence for 3 months and not leave Guru Prasad. Korshed was not so pleased about keeping silence, but she thought any chance to be with Baba, and she and Nadja raced to have the opportunity. The last time she saw Baba was in December 1968. He told her that she could stay for 2 days after Amrit and Dara's wedding. Nashwan and his family didn't make it to the wedding. They came the next day. So Meher asked Khorshed to tell Baba they had come. So she said when she saw him, he was with Erich and looked very, very tired. That was the last time she saw Baba. After going to the last darshan, she returned to Bombay to care for her mother, who passed in 1973. Following Suna's death, Korshed lived in the flat in Bombay where she had cared for her auntie, 6 Irani mansions. And she was also a beneficiary of the trust. In 1981, she moved to Kushru Quarters, the home of Adi, in 2 small rooms with her adopted family, who are here with us this morning, Sudam and Asha, and their 2 daughters. And she would spend time with Meher at Merazad and with Erich Mani and the other Mandali at the trust compound. Khorshed died on August 4th, 1999 at age 89. She is one of the few women to be buried up at the Samadhi. Baba said, "Do you know why I like Khorshed? It is because she is not jealous of Meher, and she is helpful in every way. That is the reason I love her. Jai Baba." Thank you, Judy, for giving me the opportunity to get to know Khorshed a little bit more. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Karen. That was just beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, Judy, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba, everyone. And it delights my heart to the point of tears, obviously, that we're gathering to remember Khorshed today. This week on the 4th of August was her 22nd anniversary of going into Baba's loving arms. And first, I'd like to thank Ruthie for her wonderful slideshow and managing to track down Ishtiaki. And Karen, for your unique and wonderful bio, specifically of Khorshed, but every Mandali member that you do this with, you have an incredible skill to find the high points, the important points of their life so succinctly. So thank you for that. So I had the good fortune, as many of you know, to live at Mehrabad as a worker bee. During from 91 to 2007. So I had the fortune of being there for approximately the last decade of Khorshed's life. And I was very drawn to Khorshed from the very beginning. And during those years, I made a conscious effort to spend as much time as I could with Khorshed when I wasn't involved with my other duties at Mehrabad or Merazad. And so in that time, I heard Khorshed tell so many stories, so many times. The same story often, because there would be new people coming in and hearing them and so forth, in the small room that she shared with Sudam and Asha and their 2 and Darshana and her sister, who was here earlier, I think. At any rate, so that's what I would like to share with you this morning, is a few of the stories that I heard from Khorshed. And the ones that she told most often, in my experience, were from her earliest days with Meher Baba, and even a couple before she had actually met Baba. So those are the stories. I think she told those most because that earliest time with Baba was so precious, when there were so few people with Baba relative to what happened, came later. And so she particularly loved that period. So Korshed's story has to start with her parents. And in but let me say a couple of words before that about who Korshed is, if there's anyone that doesn't know so much about Korshed. She was one of Baba's earliest and closest women disciples, who, as Karen said, met Baba 1 week after she turned 12. So she knew Baba from 12 to 89. Well, actually 30 years before that, because he dropped his body in 69. She, one of the things that Karen mentioned in her bio, which is such a central, Baba was totally central to Korshed's life. And I'll tell the circumstances of that in a moment, but secondary only to Baba was Meher in her life. And she and Meher became fast friends, literally the day they met, and for the rest of their lives. Meher always enjoyed Korshed's company, and Baba made sure, even on that last Darsh, the last year of his life in 68, when they went to Pune for the 3 months that they spent at Guru Prasad, Baba was in such strict seclusion that he wouldn't allow any of his regular folks that would be with him throughout the summer, like Erich's younger brother, Merwan Jesawala, or anyone that wasn't actually living at Merazad, besides Korshed, to come for that summer. But he allowed her to come if she would, but she had to observe silence. So and Baba also put Naja on silence together, but so they spent that last summer together with Baba. But back to her parents. And I, few things I need to read, and I don't see without these glasses rather than those. And actually, Korshed was related to Baba on both sides of his family through her mother, Suna. And one day, Korshed and her parents went to visit Baba's home in Pune. And Baba's maternal grandmother, Golandun, was there and told them, "You are relatives of ours. Suna's father is my cousin." And at another time, Suna said, "Shiriyarji is also related to me and came to my sister Gulmai's wedding." So Korshed is related to Baba through both his mother Shireen Mai and on his father's side with Shiriyarji. And so Korshed's father, he was a seeker of God. Whenever Korshed would talk about her father, she always emphasized how very spiritual he was, how very much the only thing he cared about in his life was God. But his father, his own father, had died when Shirier Shirierji was only 15. And he had two younger brothers and a younger sister and his mother to take care of as the oldest man in the family at 15. So his father had been running a liquor shop, and he took that over to bring in some money, but he didn't like it, and he had no interest in worldly affairs. What he wanted to do was devote himself to God. So he one day, well, he tried a derby lottery and kept betting on that, but that wasn't, he never won with that. And then a Muslim friend of his told him about something called the Sheila Nashini, which actually Baba's father also did, where you make a circle and you sit in that circle for 40 days and 40 nights without any food, and you can drink water or milk, and that's all you can have in those 40 days. And you can't fall asleep. So Kaikoushru succeeded for the first 38 days, but on the 39th day, he was so tired that he fell asleep. And he had a dream. And in that dream, Lakshmi Devi, the Hindu goddess of wealth and purity, appeared to him. And she was in brilliant light and beautiful jewels and silks and so forth. And she reached out to him with something in her hands. And Kaikoushru recognized that it was a baby. And he said, no, I don't want a baby. I want to devote myself to God. And so, but she handed him, and he didn't know what to do. So he took the baby. And the moment the baby touched the tip of his fingers, his arms, both arms became silver all the way to the elbow. And he didn't quite know. And Lakshmi Devi said, don't worry. Now, I think that's what Baba's saying to me. Lakshmi Devi said to him, this baby will give you what you want. You want prosperity so you can devote yourself to God. All that you want will come to you through her. But you must treat her very, very kindly. You must give her the best things and never cause her stress, and just treat her so lovingly. And after saying these things, he woke up, the dream ended, and he was devastated because he realized he had not succeeded in doing the Sheila. He only made it for 39 days. And so, greatly depressed, he walked out of his house where he'd been doing this in one room where no one would disturb him, and walked down the road, and a man came from the other direction and said, would you like to be my partner? I have a jewelry shop here in Bombay where they were living. And I have 11 young attendants. They're assistants and they help, but I need a partner in business. Would you like to do that? and in his depressed and not knowing what to do state said, okay, he'd give it a try. And as it turned out, he became a very successful jeweler, and he made jewelry and had quite a following that really enjoyed his jewelry. And he became successful enough that he didn't have to spend all his time at the jewelry shop. So he did what his heart really wanted to do, which is follow genuine spiritual masters. And in that process, he met all 5 of Baba's perfect masters, and not only met, but really spent some significant time with them. And it was through him and through Suna's connection that many of the earliest of Baba's mandali first came to know of Baba. And certainly some of the first ones were Suna's older sister, Gulmai, that Baba called his spiritual mother, and her 2 sons, Adi K. Rani, that later became Baba's secretary for the last many decades after Chanji passed, and his older brother, Rustam, that married Mara's sister, Franny. And it was actually at their wedding was the reason that Baba came to Ahmednagar. And when there was discord in the family, that Meher Baba and some of his followers were here, Baba, his mandali told him about it, and he left where they were staying in Ahmednagar and started walking away. And the Min Mandali, they had strict orders that drop everything and go when Baba goes. And so some of them were still brushing their teeth. It was early in the morning or having coffee or whatever. And they basically ran after Baba, who walked to what is known now as Mehrabad. And he took, they stopped under the original well, and that's still there, and had water and so forth. But that's getting ahead of the story. That was May 4th, 1923. So let's go, we need to go back a ways. And that is that, so Kaikhushru had met Tajuddin Baba, and from Sai Baba of Shirdi was how he learned of Upasni Maharaj. And he'd already met all 5, Babajan and Narayan Maharaj. But when the last of Baba's perfect masters that he contacted was Upasni Maharaj, and he went nowhere else. He started going there whenever he could get time off from his job. And in 1917, he came back home to Bombay after having been at Sakori, and he'd come back a number of times. But Korshed told me that she hid behind the couch the day that Baba came in and said to Suna, guess, you'll never guess who came today to Sakori, the most beautiful young Irani man. He's so beautiful, and and he described Baba's beauty, the softness of his cheeks, and how wise and how close he was to Upasni. And Khorshed was hearing that. And at the very moment that she heard that, she really fell in love with Baba and longed for the next 5 years to meet this person that was called Meher in those days. So many times from 1917 to 1922, Khoshed had taken both Suna and Korshed to Sokhori with him. But it just happened that Baba was never there any of those times. And then finally, it was Gulmai that wrote to her sister Suna, Khorshed's mother, and said, Baba wants to have a big celebration of Upasni Maharaja's birthday in May. And so meet me, you come from Bombay and meet me in Ahmednagar, and we will go to Sokhori together on the train with Baba. And it turned out that, and she gave instructions to bring a lot of things for the celebration. And because Khoshed was quite affluent at that point, it was no problem for a very big celebration. And so they had boxes and were waiting at this train station. And this was the 9th of May in 1922, exactly 1 week after Khorshed had turned 12. And so she's waiting there and with Gulmai and her mother, and kept asking, when's the train gonna come? When's the train? When's Baba coming? Is it coming soon? And she had so much anticipation. And finally the train pulled up, and there was a special bogie, a train car that Baba had reserved just for him and his followers. So Khorshed was the first one to rush in, and that was really so much the quality of her personality. She rushed through the door and looked around and asked the first person she saw, and said, where's Meher? And it was a woman, and she pointed her finger toward Meher and said, there. That was Shireen Mai, Baba's mother. And Khorshed didn't know, and she didn't care. She was looking for Meher, and she saw him for the first time. And it really, as Karen said in the bio, it was love at first sight for her. She'd been waiting 5 years to meet him since first hearing his name. And she looked at him and she said, he is so beautiful. He is so beautiful. My father was right. He's just so beautiful. His cheeks are like peaches, and his mustache comes up at a point, and he has, his hair is wrapped like a wedding turban, and that was from him hitting his head against the stone in Baba House in Pune to help bring him down, and the wound that was still there from that. but all she could see was his beauty. And she stared at him and nothing else all the way to Sikori. And when they got to Sikori, it was evening time, and there was, there was no transportation. They didn't have rickshaws in those days. But so finally they found 3 tongas, one for Shireen Mai, one for Gul Mai, and the third Korshed and Suna rode in, and Baba and all the men walked from the train station to Upasni's ashram. And so celebrations took place for 4 days. But on the 4th day, there was actually Upasni Maharaj's birthday, and they paraded him on a palanquin through the whole village of Sikori and did all of these things. And at the end of all of that, Upasni said, now all of you come into my hut because there's something very important that I want to tell you. And so everyone had come in except Merwan. And Korshed kept looking for Merwan. Where is he gonna, come? Where is he? What could have happened? Why isn't he here with all of us? And then finally, she noticed that he slipped into, there were 2 doors in that hut, and he slipped into the door that Upasni used, not the one that everyone else came through, and bowed down so reverently in front of Upasni and did arti to Upasni. And when arti was finished, Upasni said, now I have something really important to tell you. And if I say something different in the future, remember and believe what I'm telling you now. I have turned over the keys to the universe to Merwan, and he will make the whole world dance on his little finger. And he said that in various other ways, and said, do not ever leave Merwan. He is the Adi Shakti. He is the avatar of the age, and I have given all my power to him. Stick with him, hold on to him with both hands, not just to his daman with both hands, not just with one hand. You might be thrown off, and never leave him. And after him sharing that, he dismissed everyone, and everyone but Merwan took their trains or however they went back to their own homes. Merwan stayed a few more days, 5 more days with Upasni, and then went to Bombay, walked with took all his male mandali at that point and walked to Bombay, and they began refurbishing what became Manzil Amin, where they lived for a full year, from the middle of 22 to the middle of 23. And as Karen mentioned in her bio, Baba ordered Korshed to come every day to Manzil Amin at 4 p.m. After school. her father should come at 6 p.m. after his work, and her mother, Suna, could come anytime she was free. And that made Korshed jealous because all she wanted to do was be with Baba full time. But she had to go to school, and she really struggled with that. And eventually, it wasn't that long, because she just turned 12 when she met Baba, and she was still 12 when she basically dropped out of school so she could give her life to Baba. And I jumped ahead. So we're going to go back for probably one final story with Korshed, and then I want other people to. We've got some wonderful folks that with stories of Korshed and their experiences with her and so forth. So I think I'm going to finish my share at this point with a story, one of the two stories that I heard Korshed tell most often. And this took place in 1919. So Baba was still, her father had met Baba, but she hadn't yet, but she already loved him. And they were living in Bombay in something called the Irani bungalow. It was their extended family home that had many buildings. And the building that they lived in, the bungalow, she said was small. It only had 2 stories, which lets me know that the other buildings were much larger. And whenever she would tell this story, she would describe the geography of the building in great detail. But I think I'm going to try to just give the pertinent part, which is that she was up on the upper floor, and she walked out of the bedroom and was going to go. There was a little, very narrow staircase that went from the terrace to the, from the balcony to a terrace on the roof. And so she was going to climb this little narrow stairway and go up on the terrace. And she was 8 years old when this happened. And she all of a sudden 2 angels appeared, and she said they were the same size as her, and they looked just like angels that we see in pictures, except they were real, as in her telling. And they both had 2 white wings and beautiful white dresses with blue sashes, and they were just fascinating for her to look at. And almost immediately, each one grabbed one wrist. And so with an angel on each wrist, they flew her up to the terrace that was on the roof. And this wonderful little 8-year-old girl was wondering what was happening, but she was quite happy with what was happening, except that she was practically blinded with what she said was the light of 100 suns in the form of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of wealth and purity. And Lakshmi Devi looked at her and said, oh, my daughter, I'm so happy that finally we are here together, because I've wanted for a long time to tell you something very, very important. And she kept saying how happy she was. And Korshed, saw this beautiful, beautiful goddess with, and she smelled an incredible perfume, as well as the radiant light that came from her. And she was so taken, but she listened carefully. And Lakshmi Devi was very direct. She was, she was in her mode of, this is important. And she said, don't ever marry. And Korshed nodded her head, okay. She was 8, she didn't even know, she used to say, I had no idea what marrying was, really, and then Lakshmi Devi again said, don't ever marry. And Korshed nodded her head. And a third time, Lakshmi Devi held out the palm of her hand, which in the Zoroastrian tradition is a way, as I understand it, is a way of making a really solid promise. And Korshed put her hand into Lakshmi Devi's hand and swore that she would never marry. And before doing that, Lakshmi Devi had told her, now don't just say it, think about this and take it really seriously. And so she did. And then she made the promise. And then Lakshmi Devi picked her up with great joy, like you pick up a young baby, under both arms. And Lakshmi Devi had been sitting on a golden chair. And she got off her golden chair, picked her up and swung her and placed her on her own throne. And then she took the crown from her head and put it on Korshed's head. And she said to Korshed, I'm doing all this for you because you swore to me that you would never marry. And it's really important that you don't. So I am so happy I am doing all of this. And Korshed, of course, was very happy being with her. And then Lakshmi Devi disappeared. And Korshed found herself down on the second floor where she had started. And then it occurred to her, oh, what am I, how am I gonna? So there's a much longer saga of how over the next couple of years of how was she going to get her parents to not arrange a marriage for her and so forth. But that's another story. So anyway, that's some of the wonderful stories that I know many of you, and some much more than me, certainly Dr. Ann and Asha and Sudam and Darshana, she grew up at not to mention Audie, Audie, I think they're going to call on you later. And so my one personal story I'll mention about Korshed is that in the mornings, early mornings, every day, Korshed had she would line up all the children that lived in the trust office. Their parents worked for Meher Baba Trust. Um, and she would teach each of them all the prayers in English, in Gujarati, in Marathi, and all the songs to Baba and so forth. And she would have them recite and sing them every morning before school. There'd be the stair steps, and what I remember as the tallest member of that group is here today, and I'm very happy just to see him, and he can share maybe later after Saddam and his family. But I think, is it Dr. Ann that's anyway, I'll leave it to Ruthie at this point. Hey, Meher Baba.
Jay Baba, Judy, that was just beautiful. Thank you so much. You
You're
just
welcome.
filled in so many areas that I wasn't aware of, and you made them come alive. So thank you so much. And
You're
since you said Dr. Ann, I'll just say Dr. Ann, Jay Baba, if you'd like to share. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
All right.
Jay Baba.
Yes, I've often been amazed that I got to know Korshed and be a doctor, because as you can get from the stories that Judy just told, she was not an ordinary person. She didn't have an ordinary childhood, growing up with the company basically of perfect masters and advanced spiritual seekers, and having visions of Lakshmi Devi. But for me, I knew her from 88. She was an elderly lady living in the trust compound. And it was always a special pleasure to be with her, because on one part, there was this family atmosphere and there were little kids. And it was a great place to go and relax from spiritual training or having, being tired of being a doctor. But Korshed, gradually, hearing her stories, I was always amazed to realize, like, she was the last person alive to have heard Baba's voice, because she lived longer than Meher. She was there when Upasni Maharaj said, "I've given my keys to Meherwan." I mean, she was like a historical monument. And I mean, many people have known her earlier than that, but she was just fun to be around. She loved to invite you for lunch, and either Asha would cook something, or we would order from the hotel nearby, and she really enjoyed company and a beer and hotel food, and another opportunity to tell Baba stories, because really she lived for Baba and Meher. And she would dream of Baba and Meher. And I was new to everything. I didn't know too much about anybody. So the first time Korshed gets seriously ill, and she tells me the next morning, "Oh, last night I dreamt of Meher and Baba." So I would send a note to Goher saying to Dr. Goher, "Korshed had a dream of Baba and Meher. I think she's going to die." That was my interpretation. And it took me years to realize that she was having dreams of Baba and Meher very, very frequently. And my conclusion that it meant she was going to die was totally off. I think many other people might have stories. I mean, she loved children also. She was surrounded by children in that trust office compound till the end. And so I think I'll let other people talk about their memories.
Thank you, Dr. Ann. That was beautiful. Yeah, Jay Baba. Well, Asha and Sudam, are you there? I see MI82, and I think you were active there a minute ago, but your videos, oh, there you are. Jay Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. How good to
Hey,
see
Meher
you.
Baba.
Jay Baba.
Yes. You want to tell me some story?
No, we wanted to hear your stories.
Jai
Uh,
Baba Manapalli.
Jai Meher Baba. Small story I can tell. Dr. Gus was a resident doctor, and he used to come and check on Khorshed health. As soon as, do you hear? Hello? Okay.
Very
So as soon as doctor come, she asked me to go and get a cold drink for him. So every time, I was not very happy to go, but she will insist. So I had to go and get the cold drink. After Korshed died, we used to see Dr. Gus very often. And then he told me that he had lost one kidney and his wife donated him kidney. That is how he is there. But without knowing anything about Dr. Gus' health, Korshed would give him lots of liquid. So this tells her how she has great intuition without knowing anything about people. She would just know. And another small story I tell you that Asha remind me. In the before she got in coma 2 days before, it was one day before she go in coma. From Mirza, there was a mango tree, and it was mango planted by Baba himself. And the mango, only this mango is come in August. Other mango season finish. Very delicious mangoes. And the Mirza, they send as a prasad to all the Baba lovers. So we got four of the mangoes, 5 of the mangoes, each for the family. And to make it easy for Korshed, Asha cut her mango into pieces and gave it to her. But Korshed was not happy with the pieces of mango. She wanted her whole mango. So Asha gave her her own mango. And then she said, I wanted to eat the whole mango. Anyway, so she got her whole mango. She ate that mango, and after that, she did not eat anything. She stopped eating and she got sick. That was 1st August, yes. So that was the thing that she got the prasad from Baba's mango tree.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. What a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Asha?
One more story, yes.
Oh, good.
Oh, Sudha is good.
Yeah, small things. When Mera was on her last day, she was like 2 days before Mera died. We go and visit her in the auto rickshaw. We go to Merazat. And as soon as we approach near the dispensary, somebody told us that Mera is in coma, so she doesn't recognize people. Anyway, we go inside and Haider was there. Haider, no. Before we went on the porch, we were told that Baba family had just visit and Mera did not respond to them. Anyway, we went and when Korshed, Haider was on the veranda, she had this conviction that Mera will respond. So she shouted very loudly that Mera Korshed is here. And as she spoke, she took Korshed inside to Mera's bedroom. And then slowly Mera opened her eyes and she held her hand. And while sitting, Korshed sang couple of Baba songs. And somehow Korshed did not want to see her in that situation. So she said, Mera, goodbye, I am going. So as Korshed got up, Mera held her hand because both hands were together. She hold her hands very tightly. And that shows how much they had love for each other. Yeah, Meher Baba.
Sheba.
Hello.
Yes, that was so beautiful. Thank you for that description of
Can I
that.
say something?
Yes, I was going to ask you next. Please do.
That reminds me of Korshed coming to see Mani when Mani also was at the end of her life in a coma. And Korshed was always very childlike similarly to like Mera in a way. They were similar in that. Very childlike, very simple English, but, very perceptive and out of that, with that childlike language, she would be so deep. Anyway, Mani has been in a coma for a few days, and I was with Mani in the afternoon. All the Merazad ladies were with Mani day and night, but in the afternoon they would crash, take a nap, and that was sort of my shift. So I am told Korshed is going to come to say goodbye to Mani. And, silly me, I start worrying, oh, how is Korshed going to react, seeing that Mani doesn't respond? Anyway, Korshed comes, shuffling and huffing. She had asthma. And she takes Mani's hand and she starts talking to Mani. And I just read my notes about that. She says, Mani, I love you very much. Mani, Baba loves you very much. Mani, I think everybody loves you. And then she continues, we don't understand what Baba is doing with you because he's doing something spiritual. But Mani, everybody loves you. And, she didn't cry. She never cried. Baba had given her an order never to cry. So she was not going to shed a tear. But I thought she's just said it all so simply, I love you, Baba loves you. Whatever is happening, it's okay, it's Baba's work. And, that was what would happen with me. I was impressed. Again and again, I was impressed by Korshed, this, little old lady who was a very stubborn patient. She would not follow my instructions. She would eat what she was not supposed to eat. I mean, there are many here who know what I'm talking about. But so often what would come out of her mouth would be so right, right heart to heart, because she was so close to Baba.
So beautiful, Anne. Thank you. Just looking at the photos as I was putting them into order for the video, there were places where she looked so serious and introspective, and they were very beautiful. And then there were a few where she smiled, and they were just like the sun coming out. She had a beautiful smile. So it just was just amazing to see her and Mara in the early days side by side, and kind of their reverence, and it was on their faces. It was beautiful to see. So I got a little bit of what you're saying, Dr. Ann. Thank you so much, Jay Baba. I just wondered if Asha, did you want to speak a little bit? You didn't? No? Yes? Do you want to unmute? No?
I told him and he told you.
There.
I gave I told him, he is to tell the story. I remind him the story.
Only a small thing, how she sitting in the chair and always cheerful. That was Baba's blessings to her. And she used to get children, servant children, 4 of them, 10 of them, and hours she would teach them Baba songs. So I think that was quality. Bauji also had the same quality, that he would get people around and make them sing. Hope there is somebody to sing some Baba songs. I don't know. I don't sing. Jai
Yes,
Meher Baba.
Jay
Korshed,
Baba.
I remember Korshed telling Don Stevens, I've had a very good life, you know, I've had a very wonderful life. And, you know, she couldn't walk, or very great difficulty. She had fractured her hip, she had had a mastectomy. I mean, the list, she had asthma, she had kidney, I mean, the list of medical problem was huge. And Bauji has said that he thinks she was, of all the Mandali, she's the one who suffered the most, you know, starting with her father, her father's death when she was 20, and all the family opposition to their following Baba, and not being taken to go in a new life. You know, that was also very painful. But she was cheerful. She was fun. That's certainly true.
That's so wonderful.
I'm curious. I wonder what are the memories of those who were children, you know, Darshana, Mira, Adi.
Well, I see Adi has signed out for some reason, but Mara's here. Mara, are you available? I'll just ask you to unmute. Jay
Jai
Baba.
Baba. Jai Baba, Jai Baba. Yeah, she was very loving. She was a grandmother, and for her, Baba was the first priority. She made sure that we prayed and we loved Baba and we studied well. She did not like anybody scolding us at all. And I would say she was suffering a lot, but she was decades ahead of her time for her age. You know?
Mira, do you remember a little melody? Maybe one of the Baba songs that she taught you?
But I don't sing. Not
All right. I won't force it, but I just wondered.
Ruth, could I ask Mira, first of all, it's wonderful to have this much contact. I can't see you, but after all these years, could you share with us a little bit of what was your experience of growing up with Korshed, you know, in the same 2 little rooms for all of those years? Share a little bit of your experience.
She was a grandmother to us, and she was very cool, and it was kind of very natural life for us that we took upon her like she was a Mandali or something. She was our grandmother, that's all, and she used to take active interest in every aspect of her life.
And when you say she was ahead of her time, that's quite true. I mean, she encouraged you to do judo, or what did you do in school? Some martial art?
Yeah, yeah. Judo.
Judo, yeah.
Judo, yeah.
Mm. She was all for girls' education. You can be sure of that.
Huh. Is
Very
there
cool. Mm-hmm.
is Darshana still with us?
Uh, yeah, hi. So I think from the about the education, right? I always remember when I was a kid and they used to ask me what you want to be when you grow up, and I used to keep changing my profession. So there was one point of time I said that I want to be a lawyer, and she said, no, no, don't be a lawyer. You'll have to always speak. You'll always have to lie. So don't be a lawyer. Then I said, I want to be an electrical engineer. So she said, no, 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 don't be an electrical engineer. You'll get shock, electric shock. So she like, always, and then I think, I'm not sure whether we reached to I think she was okay with computers. Yeah, by the time I reached to that. So that was fine. But like she was very adamant that I should not become a lawyer. And like Meera said, it was very natural. For me, most precious moments were, sitting above her chair and combing her silver hair and like into those ponytails. And she used to love getting all the children around and singing those nice songs. And all these songs had so much of depth and meaning. So now when I teach my son of things, and I was like, oh, I've heard this, and this, oh, this meant this. So one was about there's so we had Teachers' Day around, and we were looking for a poem that my son could say in his class, and we came up with that one, Guru Gobind Dono Khade Kiske Lagu Paye, बलिहार गुरु आपनो जिसने गोविंदियो दिखाए, which means that if your teacher and your God is with you in front of you, then who will you pray to and seek blessings from first? And you do you'll take it from your teacher, because it's a teacher who showed you the way to God. And this is something that we heard as a child, right? Not even knowing what it means. And she used to teach so many of these poems and nice things to us. And I think that sort of really carved us and like made our personalities and showed us the right things to do in a very natural manner. I mean, it was a very fun childhood, but then I think she really carved us well, like into good human beings.
Shannon, do you mind if I ask the song Ishtiaq? I couldn't find a translation anywhere, and I know there's a story about Baba teaching her that song. Do you know it? The story?
Perhaps
No, I don't know.
No. All right.
I could share a little bit of the story, and perhaps Anne may know more. Ishtiaki is a song that Meher Baba wrote under his plume, his name Huma, and he wrote it in it would have been probably 1922. And what's that, Sudan?
Manjilemim.
Manselamim, yeah, in 1922 in Manselamim. And he asked Korshed to, he sang it and told her, write down the words as he was singing it. And she wrote down the words and she learned to sing it. And Baba often asked her to sing it in various times when they gathered and so forth. I know that I haven't been able to locate my tape. I have a tape copy of Songs of Huma, Volume 2, and it's on the the flyer, the paper part that accompanies the cassette, and the translation of the song but the essence of it is, I will become yours when you become mine. And actually Bob and Jane Brown did a tape of Baba songs that didn't include that one. They did do it on a different album, but their album called album that sort of dates it, and I have it as a tape, was I'm Yours. And anyway, so that was taken from Ishtiaki. But so here's what I know about the writing, that Khorshed gave the paper to Baba with the words on it, and he put it in the pocket of one of his coats, and then Khorshed, I believe, ended up with that coat. And Marnie, thanks so much for being here. And so Khorshed had that coat, and then I think it was Jack Small, or perhaps another, I'm pretty sure it was Jack Small, that because he was one of the people that asked for things of Baba. He wanted anything that had been Baba's, and he managed to collect a whole lot of things that way in the early 70s. And so Khorshed gave him this coat, but before she gave it to him, she checked the pockets and found from 1922 her handwriting of the words for that song, which is part of how we have those recordings today. Anne, do you know more of that story?
I do. I
good.
do. This is Rosalie. It was found, Khorshed, in Khorshed's book, Fortunate to Love Him, she says Baba taught her the song, and he had it written down, and he stuck it in his pocket. She ended up, he gave her the coat. It was a white coat. And when Baba dropped his body, she sent it to the Baba lovers in Los Angeles. And a Baba lover named Terry Adams found it in the pocket, and it's in Gujarati. So they showed it to Adi Kairani, and this is a translation. It's in one of Phyllis's Awakeners. When the enthusiasm of longing crosses the limit, his radiance to the eyesight will be revealed. What shall I say, O heart? On losing the ego, what will you become? United with God, you will be. Man to God, you will become. Coming to me, the secret of, he whispered into my ear, I will become yours when you become mine. Anyway, I wanted to say, I fell in love with that song, Ishtiake, and I proceeded to learn it. And I used to, at a time after Archie, you could be inside the Samadhi, and I would sing it because I wanted to remember being in the Samadhi through that song. And then I was coming out, and the person at the door handed me prasad, but the person says, you're singing Baba's song incorrectly. You must stop singing it. And we went back and forth. I says, I'm not going to stop singing it. And she says, no, you must stop singing it. I says, I'm not going to stop singing it. So finally I said, well, maybe sometime I'll come and visit you and you could tell me what you felt I did wrong. But I didn't go to her, but it was great good fortune because I remembered that Khorshed sang it to Baba as a child. So I went to Korshed. She listened to me sing it. And then she said, it's a sacred song. Just don't move your head. Don't draw attention to yourself. So she was the perfect person to hear about the Ishtiake, you know, and I'm very grateful. I would say also, and I feel this very strongly, Adele Walton mentioned to me one day, she says, Korshed played a very important role. She was Mera's shadow. She called her his shadow, like Baba had Gustaji. And when I look at her life and what I know of it, and she only wanted to be with Baba. She did not want to be outside the ashram. She was there with him as a child, and that was her heart's desire. It wasn't just, you know, of course it was terrible when they went on the new life and she couldn't go and she didn't know if she'd ever see him again. But the thing is, I feel she was the shadow. They were best friends. But although Mera would always do what Baba wanted, and Khorshed would sometimes say to Baba, it's in her book, no, Baba, anything but that. Ask me anything, but not that. And sometimes he would let her not get off the hook. And, you know, not always, but I love that about her. It kind of represents all of us. How many of us love Baba as Mera loved Baba, you know? So it's sort of like, there's like a balance of some sort. And she was so natural and so on fire with Baba. You know, she sat there in that simple dwelling, she was just living Baba. You know, her life was Baba's, you know. And one time I remember it was after Arti, Khorshed had come to Arti and they were in the tin shed and I happened to be there and Khorshed embraced Mera. And I could tell you it was almost like a lightning storm. I mean, it was like, what? And I asked her the next day about it. I says, why did you do that? She said, I had to do it. Interesting words. But, you know, I think she had a role and it wasn't an easy one, not being in the ashram from early childhood. Yeah, not easy role. Yeah. And of course, also, Baba didn't like her telling Mera certain things. He didn't want Mera to know certain things. And Khorshed, she was her best friend. She'd tell her. Anyway, that's my cut on it. And I was grateful for meeting this very special soul. And one time she had me train Mera. Mera was 8 years old, very, very shy. And Khorshed says, will you please, I want her to perform for Mera in Mandali Hall. And I said, okay, I'll try and work with her. She had, in school, she had this cute little paper outfit. It was mint green and it was a little skirt and a little jacket. And so we worked it out and he says, we are Baba's paper dolls standing by his chair. So we worked it out, but I knew she was so shy. She was shy with one person, but Mandali Hall, Sunday. So anyway, Asha put her makeup on and she had her little outfit and she came into the hall and everyone was she looked so beautiful. Everyone went, oh, and she got nervous and started doing it too. And I had a little trick with her. I'd say, Jai Baba, and she'd go into a namaste and then gather herself. And then she did it. And I had someone take her picture doing it. So of course it would have a little record. And Korshed was so happy about it, so happy. And I was, of course, so happy, you know, to help Korshed with anything. But it was very important to Korshed that she, and now, I mean, she's a doctor. Yeah, she went from very shy to, yeah. Anyway, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Rosalie. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, you know, I keep seeing Adi. He shows up and then he goes. So I wonder if he's having some internet connection issues. So I'll just keep my eye out for him, Judy. And I don't know, Mona, you had a hand up. Are you there to share something? Mona?
And Ruthie, let's open it for anyone that wants to share. So
Well, there's Jonathan Burrows. Yeah, great. Great idea, Judy. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Did someone mention how you loved on the way to Marizad, stopping every time Khorshed would be sitting out in front of her rooms, and she'd go up and she'd give prasad, peanuts or whatever, and always stressed not Jai Baba, Jai Meher Baba. And I also remember what it really struck me one time, a person, I think it was someone from Australia, asked what they could do to get closer to Baba. And in some ways, this must have been specifically for them because they must have had children, but she said, don't wait until your children are 7. Bring them to the Samadhi as soon as you can. And I just love that because that's kind of her freedom to do what the heart leads, and also how important children's experience are at that tender age to connect with Baba. And I spent a lot of time, as others had, of recording her stories. And one thing that was really personal to me was she asked me at one point to make a recording of music, of singing various things. And I had some songs that I had done, but she specifically asked me to put the Beloved God prayer to music just for her. So anyway, I made up that tape and I left it with her. And one last thing that came to me too was, it was a picture, you know, Baba's picture of real happiness lies in making others happy. That picture of him, the fellow in Lake Tahoe had made t-shirts of that, and I had a t-shirt of that, and I gave it to Korshed, and she spread that out on her pillow in the line of that. So it was so sweet. I really delighted in just connecting with her each time we go by. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Well, Jonathan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I have to ask, do you remember the melody
No,
for the Beloved
no,
God?
you know, I'm the kind of person sometimes that I hear melody more easily than I can hear words. And so I kind of do spontaneous melodies, you know, so I don't remember what it was.
Beautiful.
But I do know that after that, and I think there was maybe a connection, because, you know, who also had Danny Ladinsky, she encouraged him to share his things. And it was after that I came back and we started the Celebrating the Divine meetings at the center, which involved a lot of singing. And I, you know, so I just, for a period of years, I used to share songs. So that may have been connected, I don't know. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Jonathan. I just am sad that I missed them. That's the thing. I missed you.
BJ knows the melody.
Yeah, he does. I know
Yeah.
he does. Thanks, Rosalie. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if Mira, it's good to see your face. Thank you for bringing up your camera. And if you have anything else to share, please just jump in. But anybody else might be interested to share a little bit, stories or memories. Korshed, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to meet her in 1985, also at the compound, and give her towelettes. She liked those Zephyrin towelettes to wash her hands. And they used to tell us to bring those to India. So I had a bunch and I gave a bunch to her and she loved them. No, I'm looking for, Judy? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I always have plenty, but so anybody else that has something, please raise your hand. One comment I wanted to, that Jonathan made reminded me of how Korshed was really adamant the last several years of her life that whenever anyone came in, at that point, she usually wasn't sitting outside her room, she was in her room, and her mobility was not so great. But anyone that came in and said Jay Baba Khorshed, she would correct them. No, it's don't say Jay Baba. You must say Jay Meher Baba. In the future, there will be so many Babas. So always say Jay Meher Baba. And every single person that came in got that message if they happen to say Jay Baba. One of the other things that I wanted, I'll actually read it so that I get it right, because we were talking. Some folks have been talking about Mara's her connection with Mara. And this is something that Baba said to them, to Meher and Khorshed. Meher, you and Khorshed have been best friends together with me in many lifetimes. When I was Krishna, Meher, you played the role of Radha. And Khorshed, you played the role of Radha's best friend, Chandrika. So they've been together with Baba in many lifetimes. And Anne's comment reminded me of something that I had wanted to mention. It's like not unimportant. And that's about Baba's voice. As Anne so rightly said, she was one of the last people living that heard Baba speak. And one time I was with Khorshed, I think it was just the two of us, and I asked her, Khorshed, can you please describe what Baba's voice sounded like? And she gave me a look like, you idiot. And she said, how can I possibly explain the beauty of Baba's voice? So, yeah. And I'm wondering if Marianne Barnhart, who I know learned Ishtayaki from Korshed, if she would like to share anything of her time with Korshed.
Marianne, are you there?
I am. I'm just sort of stunned.
Good you're here.
Well, I mainly knew Korshed in when she lived in Bombay, and I went to visit her because she was one of Baba's close ones. And I wanted to learn songs from her. And so that's when she taught me Ishtiaki. And I know, I'll sell it. This is a funny story. And I hope it's not inappropriate, but she was invited out to dinner by Kent Manasudin. I can't remember very well. I had taken some lessons from him also in Ahmednagar, but he and his son wanted to take her out to dinner. So she said, we're going out to dinner with him. And we walked all the way to the Chinese restaurant and through the teeming streets of Bombay. And I didn't really pay much attention because we were chatting and she was showing me different little details and I wasn't noticing the big picture. And we got there and the two men were already there and the dinner was already coming and everybody had a big beer on his place. And I said, oh, I don't drink. And Korshed said, oh, that's all right, dear. I'm having one. So we had a lovely visit with these people. I drank the whole beer. She drank her whole beer. And we all said goodbye to each other and they went on their way. And we stepped out of the restaurant and Korshed took my arm very closely and she said, now, dear, you'll have to guide me. And she had had a little bit too much to drink, I guess. I don't know, but she expected me to guide. And I didn't really remember the way back to her apartment. But we got there. So I just sort of felt my way all the way back, taking Baba's name and just being with her. And we got home. So, but that was my funny story of Korshed. That is actually, except for the time sitting and singing, that was my freshest memory of being with her because it was so shocking and funny to me.
Thank you so much, Mary Ann. And I'd like to echo what she and Ann and others shared about how much fun it was to be with Korshed, how lighthearted and joyful. And she had a great spirit. As people have mentioned, she had a lot of inner hardship and outer hardship in her life, but she rose in a really beautiful way. And so that one hardly thought of that when I was with Korshed. And one thing, since we get to see Mary Ann too, since Mary Ann brought this story up, I will bravely mention something that I don't know much about, but I can have lots of ideas about. And that was that Tony Grisk once managed to, he invited her to go to Goa with him. And she went. And they had a good time in Goa, apparently. And so I don't know any of the details, but she had that kind of spirit of like being willing to do things that most of us came to not expect from the close women mandali at Marazad that were more restricted because they were there and Korshed lived in the trust office. So she had the freedom to come and go. Anyway, so that's, yeah, she was great to be with. Thanks.
Beautiful. I just wonder if Mary Ann had a song or anything that she might. I hate to put you on the spot, but just to ask. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It's okay.
You're muted, Mary Ann.
There. I don't know if I could sing right now. I haven't sung at all today. So sometimes when I sing first, it's fine, and sometimes it's not fine. So
Yeah.
I could mute it, go practice, go see if I can sing, and then come back.
Well, that's your
So-
choice. I know VJ is willing to sing Ishtiaki. So go ahead, VJ. You can go ahead and sing that if you'd like.
Jai Baba,
Okay.
thank you.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, I liked the way Judy described. Thank you, Judy. And Marian, though, has an seems nice voice quality, so I think it will be wonderful to listen from her later on sometime. I can sing, but before that, uh, I would like to say that Khorshed was my favorite woman Mandali. And she looked so divine and saintly and so loving and caring. I used to visit her flat in 70s at Bombay. Whenever I went to Bombay, I made it a point to visit her flat at Dadar railway station, near the Dadar railway station. And of course, there she had some hardships. And always I thought about, I told also her once, why don't you move to Nagar? And so I was happy. Then later on, when she moved to Nagar, and once in 1978, when I returned from Myrtle Beach Center and from the airport, I went to her house directly. I took auto rickshaw, and then I have some argument with auto rickshaw, and there Adike Irani was there. He came on, and then anyway we settled, and then Adi was there. So I looked at him and I laughed and laughed, because he was the person who wrote me a letter to consulate on my behalf, my recommendation, and Meher Center. So it was really very happy to tell Khorshed and Adike Irani my first experience of Meher Center, and they were also very happy. Then Adi asked me, you can stay here for tonight. And I say, well, Adi, I have to go to another friend's place, and so I will go there. And yeah, then I really, it impresses me that how she took care of Sudam and Asha, and her and his children. Meera Darshana, it was really something, and so caring. And she was like her own, her own son and daughter-in-law and kids. That was really amazing to me. And as Judy said, that she was fond of traveling and she went to Goa. I know, I knew that story. So anyway, and once she asked me, Vijay, do you put sandal stick to Baba? I say no, because I know Baba didn't like rituals and all. But then she says, okay, you put one sandal stick. So sometime I do sandal stick away, not near Baba's picture. But then I remember Korshed. Oh, she asked me to light a sandalwood, a sandal stick. So not regularly, but whenever I put a sandal stick somewhere, and I remember that Korshed asked me to light a sandal stick to Baba. So, and And she has such a concern for Baba lovers. She inquired about every Baba lover she has known. And whenever I visited trust office, I made it a point to visit Khorshed's. She was like a grandma. So she attracted. And it was very nice to have a chai from Asha and Prashad. And really, I miss her. And she reminds me of Babajan. Whenever I think of Babajan, I think of Khurshid. Yeah. So, and yeah, of course, it's really means I'm glad to know that what Judy told that she was there in front of Upasni Maharaj. She witnessed Upasni Maharaj calling Meher Baba Adi Shakti, and that my powers I give to Marwan and he will move the entire world on his fingers. And yeah, and she lived next to Upasni's room also. The next room was Upasni Maharaj's room. So really very pleasant and sweet memories, always very prominent, very profound. Yeah. So I will I will sing this song, Ishtiyake. Already Judy told about it. And the meaning of the song is, when divine love crosses its limit, then he will be appearing in front of your eyes. What shall I say? My heart, when you lose yourself, you become what you will be qualified from slave to God. In my ear, he whispered, the perfect real thing, parde ki baat, the real thing, where means, yeah, the secret thing. When you become mine, I will be yours. Yeah. So I just sing this. Just have some little music, so it will help me. Hmm. इश्तिया के शौक जब हद से सिवा हो जाएगा, सामने आँखों के वो जल वनमा हो जाएगा, इश्तिया के शौक जब हद से सिवा हो जाएगा, क्या कहूँ ये दिल खुदी खो कर तो क्या हो जाएगा, क्या कहूँ ये दिल खुदी खो कर तू क्या हो जाएगा, वास्ले हक होगा बंदे से खुदा हो जाएगा, वास्ले हक होगा बंदे से खुदा हो जाएगा, कानों में आकर के वो कह गए मुझे पर्दे की बात, कान में आकर के वो कह गए मुझे पर्दे की बात, मैं तेरा हो जाऊंगा जब तू मेरा हो जाएगा, मैं तेरा हो जाऊंगा जब तू मेरा हो जाएगा, इश्तिया के शौक जब हद से सिवा हो जाएगा। अवतार मेहर बाबा की जय। थैंक यू रूथ, थैंक यू। जय बाबा ऑल।
Oh, thank you, Vijay. That was really beautiful.
He's like a nightingale. He's definitely. Thank you so much, Vijay. That was just beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Now, Marianne, you're on. I don't know if you're on to sing or just to kind of be with us.
You're muted, Marianne.
I'm on to be with you because that is the song that I remember, and he sang it so beautifully. It needs to sit with
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Glad you're here.
us. Me too.
Marcia, did you have something you wanted to share?
I was going to play the version of that song from Road of Mystery, but now I don't need to.
Yeah, thank you.
But I got to meet her too, and hear stories, and I remember most saying Bob's name all the time, and having tea with her back there. But
yes.
Thank you, Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Thank you, Marcia. Beautiful. Well, I think we're coming towards the end, but we have so many wonderful people here. Dr. Ann, do you want to go ahead and unmute?
Yes, I would like to share one more thing. I was very impressed at the end of Korshed's life. She knew she was going to die, and she was absolutely unafraid. And then, a few days she was in a coma. Everything just was obviously perfectly ordained. All the people who needed to be there were there. There was beautiful singing in her room all the time. It was really quite a beautiful lesson for me. And then during her cremation, you might have heard the story of Mani's cremation. Erich tells a story that two sadhus were walking on the road while Mani was being cremated, and they came and asked Erich, who is being cremated? And he says, Meher Baba's sister. And why do you ask? Why do you want to know? And the sadhus explained that they've noticed that the smoke was blue. The smoke from the pyre was blue. And I don't know exactly, but from what I remember, it's a sign of a very pure soul or a very advanced soul that is, that is going up. So when Korshed was being cremated, I was watching very carefully, and I tell you, the smoke was blue. Yeah, we are so lucky to have met very special people.
Oh, Dr. Ann, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
And thinking of her purity, um, in what Anne just shared with the smoke, reminded me of something that just flew out of my mind. But it will come back, which I was going to share. Yes, Elizabeth had asked earlier in the chat why, how it was that Korshed, well, okay, I'll just start with she just did another query. There are more than two Korsheds in Baba history. Our Korshed that we're celebrating today is known in Lord Meher as Small Korshed because she was younger than Big Korshed, who was Jamshed's wife. Jamshed, Baba's brother, married a woman named Korshed, and Jamshed died in 27. And then Baba invited his wife, known as Big Korshed, to join the ashram after Jamshed died. So that's enough on the. There were others, but it was a popular name in the Zoroastrian community. But her earlier question had been, how did Korshed manage to not have to marry? And this is something that, so I thought I'd share really briefly, that Korshed really worried about from the very day she experienced being with Lakshmi Devi and making that pledge to her not to marry. And the short version is she tried different times. How can I tell Baba? She decided not to tell her parents because they wouldn't believe her. She was an 8-year-old girl, saying that she saw, that this goddess told her, never to marry, and she promised, and it mattered. Anyway, like she thought she wouldn't be believed. And so one day, in early, I think it was actually the first, no, there were more people. Baba showed Korshed and her mother Suna around Mehrabad the very first time he brought them out there, just the three of them together. But on another time, a little later on, Baba was there, and there were, I think, several of the women and so forth. But Baba walked so quickly that you had to practically run to catch up with him. And so she was running down the hill to catch up with Baba, and finally made it. And she said, Baba, there's something so important I need to talk to you about. And Baba said, I know. You won't have to marry. And so Baba calmed her heart from that day. And she could relax because she could keep her promise. Baba assured her she could keep her promise, and she didn't even have to ask him. He, in his omniscience, of course, knew before she even could get it out.
Beautiful. Thank you, Judy, and everyone. It's been a wonderful sharing. I think that it's probably a good time to have a moment of silence unless there's someone else that wants to share before we go. Okay. All right. Then let's have a moment of silence, and then we can all say our key J's. Jai Baba. If you want to unmute.
Avatar, Meher Baba.
Meher
Baba
Baba
ki
ki jai.
Avatar,
Avatar
Meher
Baba,
Baba
ki
Jai.
ki jai.
Avatar,
Avatar
Baba.
Baba
Jai.
jai.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for such a wonderful remembrance of a very wonderful and delightful member of Bob's inner circle from the earliest times. Ah,
Thank you so much. They were great stories.
you're welcome. And thanks to everybody else that shared theirs. And thanks especially for Sudam, Asha, Mira, and Darshana for joining us. And Dr. Ann, I guess she's already left.
Yeah, it has.
Take care, everyone. See you all next time.
Thank you.